All right, I got this down. This is a great film and a great report. You got that clip ready? Pretty good clip, huh? All right, let's do it. Good afternoon. I'm Steve S.H. Walters reporting for Breaking News 500 here in beautiful Vero Beach, Florida. Today's topic is the film Misery. Now, before we get on to Misery, if you haven't subscribed, folks, please take a second and subscribe. We greatly appreciate you, and we appreciate all our loyal subscribers. Now, without further ado, let's get on to Misery. Misery was released in 1990, directed by Rob Reiner, stars James Caan, Kathy Bates, and Richard Farnsworth, based on the novel by Stephen King. Now, the basic story of this movie is James Caan plays the part of Paul Sheldon. He's a famous author, well-known, well-respected, and he's on a little trip to go relax and do some writing, and he gets in a car accident, and he ends up in this snowdrift, and he's out of it, he's injured, and comes to his rescue is Annie Wilkes, played by Kathy Bates. And she pulls him out of that wreckage in that car and takes him back to her house. Now, she's going to be basically his nurse and try to bring him back to health. Well, this all sounds good, but she's also like his #1 fan. And she's kind of obsessed with him. And she's obsessed with his stories and his writing. And she's basically, well, how do I put this? She's a nutcase. And we've got a clip where he's at her house recuperating, and he's dealing with her, and he's seeing this stuff with her personality, and he's trying to get rid of her for a little while so he can kind of work on his escape. Okay, are you ready for this clip? Of course you're ready. Are you ready, Marvin? All right, Marvin, let's do it. Roll the clip.
I do good.
You did great. There is just one little thing. I can't work on this paper. See, it's crassable bond and it smudges. So I thought maybe if you went back into town, you could bring me some white long-grain Mimeo.
But mine costs the most. So I don't see how it can smudge.
Come here, I'll show you.
Oh, it does smudge after all. Isn't that fascinating?
I thought you'd be interested. I'd like for you to be in on everything, Annie, not just the finished book, but how it's written.
Thank you for thinking of me. Anything else I can get while I'm in town?
Well, what do you think about that clip? Pretty good clip. Did you see how her attitude started to change? How she started to get irritable, started to get a little angry? She's a nut job, I'm telling you. I've had a few crazy women like that. Have you ever had some women like that? Or you ladies, you ever have any crazy men like that? Well, it can wear on you, I'll tell you that much. Well, this film had a budget of $20 million. It is $61.3 million worldwide at the box office. It was a huge success. They had 17 nominations and 7 awards. Originally, they wanted Jack Nicholson for the part of Paul Sheldon, but Jack Nicholson found out it was based on a Stephen King novel. He didn't want nothing to do with it, because after he worked on The Shining, which was directed by Stanley Kubrick in 1980, I guess it was pretty rough on him. He said, I'm going to take a break from any Stephen King novel stories that are being put into movies. So he passed on the project. And the part went to James Caan, which I think James Caan was probably a better person for this film anyway. He was cast well for it, and he did a great job. Now, James Caan didn't realize that he was going to have 15 weeks of shooting out of bed for all the scenes they had to do because of the storyline and the injuries. He knew he had a lot of time involved, but it took roughly 15 weeks to do all that, and it really took on a toll on him physically and emotionally. Also, James Caan came to set one day a little hungover from a night of partying, and when they shot all the scenes that day, they looked at it later that evening and they realized, we can't use any of this. You know, his condition and the way he was, and the acting probably wasn't up to par, and this and that. They said, we can't use any of it. We have to reshoot it all. So the next day they explained to James Caan, they said, we're going to have to reshoot those scenes because we checked it out last night and there were some problems in the lab. Rob Reiner was being nice about that. But when James Caan found out the truth, that it was his condition, he felt guilty about it and he offered to pay the studio the money they lost for that day of shooting. Also, Kathy Bates, who played the part of Annie Wilkes, didn't realize how quickly she got the part because they were looking at a lot of famous actresses for that part, but when they saw her in her audition, they said she'd be perfect for the part, and that was the decision, and that was it. She was the one for the part, and she did a fantastic job. Now, the car crash scene, they used a 1966 Ford Mustang for that scene, and James Caan was driving over this like snowdrift. Well, they wanted to make sure that they got it in one take if possible. They didn't want to have a bunch of cars to use and do a bunch of takes out there in the snow and all that. So what they did was they set up 9 cameras, all different angles, prepared it really well, and they were able to do that scene in one take, and that's what you see on film. James Caan also stated that when the film was released, he must have heard 100,000 times, "How's your legs, Jimmy?" Well, if you know the movie, you know what scene I'm talking about. We'll call it the hobbling scene. Well, that's part of movies. People remember certain scenes, and that's a critical part in this film and a great scene. Now, before we go to giving you some final information on this film, I'm going to give you public reviews. Not critic reviews, public reviews. What do you and I think about this film? So I'm going to put Marvin back to work. And here we have our public reviews. You know what I'm going to ask for, Marvin, right? Drum roll, please. Thank you, Marvin. All right, folks, let's see what the public has to say. Only got 3 reviews, but I can't remember all this stuff, and I want to do a good job and give it to you accurately. Our first review says, "The simplest movies are the best. This movie is truly one of the greatest horror films ever made." Our second review, I like this one. "When a fan crosses the line between admiration and obsession, Misery, without a doubt, is one of the best films of the 1990s, in my opinion." And I agree with that. You know what was interesting is he says, when a fan crosses the line between admiration and obsession. Yeah, because people admire you if you're famous or you've done something that you've achieved that they respect, but they can also be obsessed. So there's a line that you cross there. It's pretty wild. Our last review. "Horror movies aren't generally my cup of tea, but people always talked about how great Misery is. So when it came on TV today, I watched it. All I can say is this film didn't disappoint. What an amazing movie." Well, you can see this movie on Amazon, Apple TV, Hulu, and I'm sure a few other places. Watch it again if you've seen it before, and if you haven't seen it, you must go see it. It's a fantastic movie. It will keep you interested from start to finish. And I want to hear your comments. What's your favorite scene? What do you enjoy most about this movie? What surprised you about this movie? Put it all down in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And I want to thank you, and Marvin wants to thank you, my staff wants to thank you, and from Breaking News 500, I'm Steve S.H. Walters. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.